have only read it, so we will discuss it now. So I remind you, the Sankhya philosophy. Good morning, Shilpa. Good morning.
Good morning, Rangada.
So we are on the chapter Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta, and they seem to be all different systems of yoga,
Yes.
but the Gita is combining all of them and saying that they are all different roads, but they all lead to the liberation. So there is nothing, no fundamental opposition between them at the end. But in the beginning, they seem to have different paths. The Sankhya path is the Buddhi Yoga. You have to discriminate. You are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the vital, but you are pure consciousness. And then you go to the Nirvana consciousness, the self. And the yoga is the Karma Yoga. So Sankhya, don't do any works in the physical world, avoid as much as possible. And Karma Yoga is saying, no, don't avoid work. Do the work, but don't do it for yourself. Do it for the Lord. Okay. Sankhya is knowledge, Buddhi Yoga. You have to use your discrimination and say, Neti, Neti, I am not this, I am not this, I am pure consciousness. And yoga is, and don't do any work, don't pay attention to the physical world. That is the Sankhya way. But the yoga way, Karma Yoga, all the works that you are doing, don't avoid the work, but turn the orientation away from yourself to the divine. Do whatever you are doing as an offering to the divine. They seem to be opposite paths. And at the beginning, they are opposite paths, but at the end, you get liberation from growth. So that's what the Gita is saying. So there was another and similar opposition in the Vedanta itself. So Vedanta is the third thing that he is discussing. And Sridhar is saying that in the Vedanta also there is a total, there is a difference. And what is the difference? We will see. In the Vedanta there are two methods. And this also the Gita has to deal with, to correct and to fuse its large restatement of the Aryan spiritual culture. So what is that? This is the distinction between Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. Now, Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda are in the Mimamsa. Mimamsa is a branch of Indian philosophy. There are 9 main branches of philosophy in India. Okay? So, I don't need to list them, but Buddhism, Vedanta, Jainism, okay, and there is this Mimamsa, and there is also there are several others are there. Okay, so Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda are in the Mimamsa, and there is a division. Karma Kanda is the execution and the doing of worship and acts of adoration, and this is the Karma Kanda. Engage yourself in words and offer all your works to the divine. So that's the, it's called the Purva Mimamsa earlier. But afterwards, the Uttara Mimamsa was the knowledge aspect. Okay. So this again in the Vedanta itself also there are two, Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa, corresponding to Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. Jnana Kanda obviously means engage in knowledge, try to get knowledge. Don't worry too much about actions in the physical world. But the other thing is, no, the actions also matter. Take all your actions and do it for the Lord. Offer your thing and engage in the works. Turn all those works also to the divine. One is stress on action and one is stress on knowledge. Activity and inactivity. That's in the Aryan culture, they are saying that was there. Aryan culture includes all the philosophical systems in India. This was the distinction between Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, between the original thought that led to the philosophy of the Purva Mimamsa and the Mimamsa and the between the original Vedavada and that which led to the philosophy of the Uttara Mimamsa. Okay. So there's a footnote and I'll read that, the Brahmavada. So one is the Vedavada and the other is the Brahmavada. Gita seems to be criticizing the Vedavada if it is only flowery words and you are only superficially, you are doing the sacrifice and all that, the yajna for material benefits. You want success in the world and you are appealing for that. You want wealth, you want a good family, you want children. That is the Vedavada. And that is what the Gita is criticizing. So that is the Karma Kanda. So then the other one, Uttara Kanda, they don't worry about all these actions. Go to the essence of the meaning and get the knowledge. That is more important than doing all these things. And then you don't want anything in the physical world, you want only liberation. That's the difference between Uttara Kanda, Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. And Mimamsa, there is a footnote, so we'll read that footnote. Okay? Jaimini's idea of liberation is the eternal Brahmaloka, in which the soul has come to know the Brahman, still possesses a divine body and divine enjoyments. For the Gita, the Brahmaloka is not liberation. The soul must pass beyond to the supra-cosmic state. So the Gita wants to go right up to the Purushottama level, the third level. You remember uh, we Shilpa has no connection, I think. That's why she is asking. Okay, Shilpa has joined now. Okay, so this is the, so Jaimini's idea of liberation is the eternal Brahmaloka in which the soul has come to know Brahman but still possesses a divine body and divine enjoyments. Okay, so that's a level 2. But the Gita wants you to go right up to level 3. Okay? The soul must pass to the supracosmic state, the transcendental state. That's what the distinction is there. There are so many levels and so many different types of, each one has got a different aim in the spiritual life. One only wants liberation, another wants power, another wants enjoyment and bliss. But Srimdo and the Gita says all the three. Power, bliss, knowledge, all must be there. So I go back to the text. The Brahmavada, between those who dwelt in the tradition of the Vedic hymns and the Vedic sacrifice. This is the Karma Kanda and also the Vedavada. Okay, and those who put aside these as a lower knowledge and laid stress on the lofty metaphysical knowledge which emerges from the Upanishads. The Uttara Mimamsa went again and became the Upanishads. It went towards the Upanishads, pure knowledge. Okay, not anything to do with the physical world. Get away from the physical world. For the pragmatic mind of the Vedavadins, the pragmatic mind, remember, you are connected with the physical world and you want success and enjoyments in the physical world. Of the Vedavadins, the Aryan religion of the Rishis meant the strict performance of the Vedic sacrifices and the use of the sacred Vedic mantras in order to possess all human desires in the world. Wealth, progeny, victory, every kind of good fortune and the joys of immortality in paradise beyond. Okay? So this is the, you can call it the Karma Kanda and you can also call it the Vedavada. Those who want success in the physical world. Use the mantras of the Vedic mantras and do the yajna and offer it to the respective gods and get the enjoyments here in the physical world. That is the that is what the Gita is criticizing. Okay, it says flowery language and all that. That is not the real spiritual aim, is what Gita is saying. So the difference is clear. One wants the knowledge of the Brahman but with the enjoyments in the physical world. And the other is, and these enjoyments are what? Vital enjoyments. You want children, you want wealth. Okay, very clearly it is there. And is it true that with the mantras you can get all these things? There is certainly an element of truth in it. Okay. In fact, there are all sorts of mantras. There are mantras even for recovering things which you have lost. It's interesting, okay. But these mantras, if they are used for very limited purposes, they can give problems also. Okay. So you should be absolutely selfless. What you should ask for is selfless. So there are all sorts of mantras. Mantras are sounds which have got great power. So that is what Swami is saying here. The use of the sacred Vedic mantras in order to possess what? Knowledge? No. Wealth in the world, progeny, children, victory, every kind of good fortune, joys of immortality and paradise. For the idealism of the Brahmavadins are those who are engaging only in the yajnas and using the Vedas for success in the physical world. For the idealism of the Brahmavadins, this was only a preliminary preparation, and the real object of man, true Purushartha, began with his turning to the knowledge of the Brahman. Okay? Brahmavadins, not the Karmakandas, not the Vedavadins. The Brahmavadins are those who are wanting only knowledge. So they go to the purpose of life, Purushartha. Okay? The purpose of life is liberation and getting to the Brahmic knowledge, Brahmic consciousness. He's turning to the knowledge of the Brahman, which would give him the true immortality of an ineffable spiritual bliss far beyond the lower joys of this world or of any inferior heaven. Even the heavens, there are several heavens. Whatever may have been the true and original sense of the Veda, this was the distinction which had long established itself, with which therefore the Gita has to deal. And the Gita is very clearly rejecting Vedavada and going to the Brahmavada. Don't worry too much about the. By the way, the Gita is not telling you that get rid of the physical world. He is not saying that. He says that you have to remain in the physical world, but without transformation. The transformation is not there, but you are in the physical world, but your consciousness is up there. But you are not rejecting the physical world. Okay. So, and Srivda is saying also, you don't reject the physical world, but you transform the physical world. You go one step beyond the Gita also. Okay. So these distinctions have to be very clear in your mind. One, Vedavada and the Karma Kanda use these mantras for success in the physical world, which the Jnana Kanda says, no, that's not the real purpose of life at all. It is you have to get the real knowledge of the Brahman and live in that Brahman consciousness. And the Gita is saying, yes, that's right. But you shouldn't give up the physical world. You should live there, just like a lotus leaf in water, never gets wet. You are in the physical world, but all these imperfections don't touch you. You are absolutely immune to all these external touches. Bahya sparsha is the word used in the Gita. Okay? So, very clear what the Gita is saying. We can now read the next one. Almost the first word of the synthesis of works. So, shall we read that? So, one of you has to read almost the first word. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Almost the first word of the synthesis of works and knowledge is a strong, almost a violent censure and repudiation of the Vedavada. This flowery word, which they declare who have not clear discernment, devoted to the creed of the Veda, whose creed is that there is nothing else, souls of desire, seekers of paradise. It gives the fruits of the works of birth. It is multifarious with specialities of rights. It is directed to enjoyment and lordship as its goal. The Gita even seems to go on to attack the Veda itself, which, though it has been practically cast aside, is still to Indian sentiment intangible, inviolable, the sacred origin and authority for all its philosophy and religion. The action of the three gunas is the subject matter of the Veda. But do thou become free from the triple guna, O Arjuna. The Vedas, in the widest terms, all the Vedas, which might well include the Upanishads also, and seems to include them, for the general term Shruti is used later on, are declared to be unnecessary for the man who knows. As much use as there is in a well with water in flood on every side, So much is there in all the Vedas for the Brahmin who has the knowledge. Nay, the scriptures are even a stumbling block for the letter of the word, perhaps because of its conflict of texts and its various and mutually dissentient interpretations, bewilders the understanding, which can only find certainty and concentration by the light within. When thy intelligence shall cross beyond the wall of delusion, then shalt thou become indifferent to scripture heard or that which thou hast yet to hear. Gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. When thy intelligence, which is bewildered by the Shruti Shruti Vipratipanna shall stand unmoving and stable in Samadhi, then shalt thou attain to Yoga. So offensive is all this to conventional religious sentiment that attempts are naturally made by the convenient and indispensable human faculty of text twisting to put a different sense on some of these verses, but the meaning is plain and hangs together from beginning to end. It is confirmed and emphasized by a subsequent passage in which the knowledge of the knower is described as passing beyond the range of Veda and Upanishad. Shabda Brahmati Vartate.
Yeah. Okay. Plenty of Sanskrit quotes here. So I'll read out the verse of the chapter 2, verse 42, 43. This is what he is referring to here. So, very clear what the Gita is saying, this description of what the Gita is saying. Almost the first word of the synthesis of works and knowledge is a strong, almost a violent censure, criticism, okay? Censure, criticism, rejection, and repudiation. Criticism and repudiation, rejection of the Vedavada. And what is the Vedavada? Don't get stuck only at the words, okay? So that's what he's saying. And you have to go beyond the words and understand what the meaning is, okay? That's the most important thing. You can know in the synthesis, if you remember, Srebendo says, you could have read all the philosophy books in the physical world and yet you will not know anything about the Brahman, okay? It's only mental knowledge. That has absolutely no value at all, provided your OM is the Brahmavad. Okay, sorry, the Brahma, the Brahmic consciousness. That is the important thing. Experience is 10 times more important than mere knowledge. But he is not saying that mere knowledge does not help. It helps. But don't think that that's the entire thing. Okay. This is what is being said. And the description is very fine. He is saying, the Gita is saying, repudiation of the Vedavada. Don't get engaged only in the words and use flowery language and remain only fixed for in the physical world for enjoyments. Don't use the Vedas for mere enjoyment in the physical world. This flowery word which they declare, who have not clear discernment, devoted to the creed of the Veda. You depend on the Vedas, but you don't go beyond the words, whose creed is that there is nothing else, souls of desire, seekers of paradise. It gives the fruits of the works of birth. It is multifarious with specialities of rites, all sorts of different types of yajnas. It is directed to enjoyment and lordship as its goal. And then Srila says the Gita even seems to go on to attack the Veda itself, though it has been practically cast aside, is still to Indian sentiment intangible, inviolable, the sacred origin and authority for all its philosophy and religion. Even today, the Vedas are held in high respect, and there's a good reason for that. But everybody has forgotten what the Vedas really mean. Okay, and the language is very complex because Vedas are not philosophy; they are records of experiences of the rishis. They are not even written by human beings. They are received. They have been heard. They are shrutis. They are heard and recorded. So it's not any human being who has written the Vedas. They are all any number of rishis The secret of the Veda, I tried to, no, sorry, the Rig Veda itself. Every chapter and every anuvak, there is a rhythm in which it is written, the god to which it is addressed, and the rhythm and the rishi who has written it. So there are about 30, 40 rishis, okay, and all this has been compiled by Vyasa. They think that it is Vyasa who has compiled all the Vedas. Okay. So the Gita seems to want to attack the Veda itself, and it do it through a very interesting image. Though it has been practically cast aside, still to Indian sentiment, intangible, inviolable, sacred origin and authority for all its philosophy and religion. The action, he is quoting now, he is translating. The action of the three gunas is the subject matter of the Veda. But do thou become free from the triple guna, O Arjuna. The Vedas, in the widest sense, all the Vedas, which might well include the Upanishads also, and seems to include them, for the general term Shruti is used later on, are declared to be unnecessary for the man who knows. So, I go back to the verse. Verse 42 in chapter 2 is Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschita. Avipaschita, those who don't have the knowledge, and they go on using the Vedas, flowery language, okay, but nothing more than that. Vedavada rata, who are engaged only in arguments and Vedavada, only the words. O Partha, Nanyadasti Vadina, they say that there is nothing else except the enjoyments in the physical world. There is no other reality. But and what are they? Verse 43, Kamat Manam. Kamat Manaha. Swargapara. They want only enjoyments and they want to go to heaven. Janma Karma Phala Pradam. They want to get the benefits of karma in the physical world. Kriya Vishesha Bahulam, all sorts of kriyas, rites. Okay. There are different types of yajnas. You do this, you do that, you offer. Recently, I attended a Vedic Vedic yajna. Okay, someone was inaugurating a house, and I was invited, and I thought, let me go and see what happens. So I went in there, and they were going on reciting for 1.5 hours. They built a fire, small fire, and they went on offering all sorts of things into the fire. You know, pieces of wood, incense, and ghee, and what not. I think there were about 25, 30, 40 items. You know, dry leaves of all sorts and twigs of all sorts and type of grass of all sorts. So, Kriya Vishesha Bahulam. So this is the, I just went to see what it is all about, and it is still living in India. This culture is still living. It went on for 1.5 hours, and this they had brought so many items, these priests. But I must say one thing, they knew their scriptures, at least the words. They were reciting all the Upanishadic verses and all that correctly. But they are stuck only in the words. So this is what the Gita is criticizing. Don't get stuck only in the words. Okay? You have to go far beyond and go to the knowledge behind the words. That's what it is saying. And then it says something very interesting. It uses an image. It says to the man who knows. Okay? The Veda is being compared to a well of water. So when you are thirsty, you need a well of water to drink from there. Okay. But if there is a flood everywhere, you don't need a well. So to the man who has the knowledge, why does he need the Vedas? The Vedas are only a well, a small well, but he has the whole flood in front of him. To the man who knows. So that is the image being given. And as much use as there is in a well with water, in flood on every side, so much is there in all the Vedas for the Brahmin who has the knowledge. The Brahmin who has the knowledge does not need the Vedas. For a man who is thirsty, when there is a flood, he doesn't need a well. That's the image given. Beautiful image, and that is what he is saying. The man who knows, has knowledge, is like a man who has a flood on every side. Water is there everywhere for him. He doesn't need a well. So this is the beautiful image. Like that, there are so many different images in the Gita also. So I go on to the next one. As much use as there is in a well with water, in flood on every side, so much is there in all the Vedas for the Brahmin who has a knowledge. If you stick only to the Vedic words, it is like a small well. And to the man who has knowledge, he doesn't need that well because he is full of knowledge everywhere. He is in flood. The flood of knowledge is there in him. So I go to the next. Nay, the scriptures are even the stumbling block for the letter of the word. If you remember in the synthesis, okay, Srimanta says the same thing. He says, truth is eternal and beyond words. So, however great the scripture, never restrict yourself only to one sacred text. The truth is far beyond that. So use all texts, but never get stuck and say that this is the ultimate truth. You have to always go beyond the words. That is what he says very clearly in the synthesis. No? And here also he is telling you in the first chapter our use, what use we'll make of the Gita. He says don't get stuck at the words only. Go to the knowledge behind. Okay. So, nay, the scriptures are even the stumbling block. If you, mental knowledge is very good at a certain level. But if you want to go to the spiritual level, mental knowledge is of no use at all. It's like dry wood. It's absolutely of no use. Nay, the scriptures are even a stumbling block for the letter of the word, perhaps because of its conflict of text and its various mutually dissentient interpretations. Dissent is disagreement, opposition of views, disagreement. So dissentient interpretation bewilders the understanding, just like the Sankhya and the Yoga seem to be opposites, but they are not opposites. You must have a clear understanding of the text, then you can go beyond the words. That's what he's saying. Bewilders the understanding, which can only find certainty and concentration by the light within. When thy intelligence shall cross beyond the whirl of delusion, then shalt thou become indifferent to scripture, heard or that which has yet to hear. Kantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. That which you have already heard and that which is to be heard. Shrutasya, that which you have already heard, and shrotavyasya, that which is to be still heard. You have to go beyond that. Okay. Nirvedam, go beyond the Vedas. When thy intelligence, which is bewildered by the Shruti vi pratipanna, the one that you are, the Shruti is confusing you, okay, shall stand unmoving and stable in Samadhi, then shalt thou attain to yoga. Don't get stuck only at the words. So offensive is all this to conventional religious sentiment that attempts are naturally made by the convenient and indispensable human faculty of text twisting to put a different sense on some of these verses. But the meaning is plain and hangs together from beginning to end. So many people, those who find it offensive, then how can the Gita, which is such a fantastic spiritual text, how can it criticize the Vedas? The Vedas are the greatest. So you give a different interpretation. That's what Swami is saying. But that's not it at all. The Veda is, the Gita is criticizing the Vedas, not the Vedas itself, but those who are stuck only in the words and the mantras. That's what he's saying. It hangs together from beginning to end. It is confirmed and emphasized by a subsequent passage in which the knowledge of the knower is described as passing beyond the range of Veda and Upanishad. Shabda Brahma Ati Vartate. Shabda Brahmati Vartate. Shabda Brahma, the words which represent the Brahman. But you have to go beyond them. Ati Vartate. You have to go beyond it. That's what it is. So the whole paragraph is Don't get stuck in the words only, and you'll get puzzled also. There'll be contradictions. So you have to go beyond that. Okay. So um, we've got 5 minutes more. So we can read one more para. There's a lot of, but basically it's very simple. The essence of what the Gita is saying is, don't use only the mind for understanding the text and use it for gaining material benefits. Don't use the Vedas for material benefits and enjoyment here. You have to go beyond the words and get true immortality. Okay, so now we're saying let us look. So we have got 5 minutes, even less, but we can read the next para. It's about a page. Okay, so one of you has to read. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Shilpa. Let us see.
Let us see, however, what all this means, for we may be sure that a synthetic and Catholic system like the Gitas will not treat such important parts of the Aryan culture in a spirit of mere negation and repudiation. The Gita has no to synthesize the Yoga doctrine of liberation by works and the Sankhya doctrine of liberation by knowledge. It has to fuse karma with jnana. It has at the same time to synthesize the Purusha and Prakriti idea common to Sankhya and Yoga with the Brahma Veda of the current Vedanta, in which the Purusha, Deva, Ishvara, Supreme Soul, God, Lord of the Upanishads all became merged in the one, all swallowing concept of the immutable Brahman, and it has to bring out again from its overshadowing by that concept, but not with any denial of it the yoga idea of the Lord or Ishvara. It has to its own luminous thought to add the crown of its synthetic system, the doctrine of the Purushottama and of the triple Purusha, for which, though the idea is there, no precise and indisputable authority can be easily found in the Upanishads, and which seems indeed at first sight to be contradiction with that text of the Shruti where only two Purushas are recognized. Moreover, in synthesizing works and knowledge, it has to take account not only of the opposition of yoga and Sankhya, but of the opposition of works to knowledge in Vedanta itself, where the connotation of the two words and therefore their point of conflict is not quite the same as the point of Sankhya Yoga opposition. It is not surprising at all. One may observe in passing that which the conflict of so many philosophical schools all founding themselves on the texts of the Veda and Upanishads. The Gita should describe the understanding as being perplexed and confused, led in different directions by the Shruti, Shruti Viprati Pana. What battles are even now delivered by Indian Pandits and metaphysicians over the meaning of the ancient text and to what different conclusions they lead. The understanding may well get disgusted and different and indifferent. Ghantasi Nirvedam refuse to hear any more text, new or old, Shrota Vyasya Shrutasya Sa, and go into itself to discover the truth in the light of a deeper and inner and direct experience.
Yeah. So Sylvia is saying that what is the Gita meaning? It does not criticize the Vedas. It's not criticizing the Vedas. That's what he's saying. So we will look at this 8:35. So we'll look at this in detail next time because there is I keep telling you about the three levels, and that is the interesting part in Srivamdas Yoga as well as in the Gita, the three levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. Okay. The Upanishads don't seem to be speaking much of the level 3, although it is there, but not with great clarity. Whereas in the Gita, it is very, very clear. The third level is very clear. Purushottama. Okay. The level 1. Shara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, Uttama Purusha. So the Uttama Purusha is the combining of the Saguna and the Nirguna, the personal divine as well as the impersonal divine. The Upanishads seem to stress too much upon the impersonal aspect of the divine. It's not that there is no mention of the others, but the stress is more on the knowledge aspect. Whereas in the Gita, there is a combination, it's a synthesis of all. So we'll look at this next time. Let us see. So we'll have to make a note and we'll see that next time. So, au revoir, everybody.